Okay, in this video I'm going to go over the Iperf 2 and Iperf 3 feature comparison. Iperf 2 is actually fairly feature rich, so don't be fooled by the numbers. This is as of February of 2021. Before I go into the features, I'll go ahead and get an Iperf client and server started. Notice I'm going to use the -E option for enhanced reports, which I suggest you be used. And then on the client, I'll start it with the trip times option, and I'll set T to 0 so that it'll run indefinitely. So it won't stop during our run. So if I start that up, you'll see the traffic started with the enhanced reports. Okay. All right, on the Iperf SourceForge site, you can go and there's a table there, and you can click on that to pull up this comparison table. And this gives us the differences between the two tools. They both work pretty well, so use which one you want, but here's a quick comparison. On the traffic side, some major differences. They both support TCP and UDP, but Iperf 2 does not support SCTP, where Iperf 3 does. But then Iperf 2 does support multicast traffic, including a source-specific multicast. It supports the TCP Connect only test, and also layer 2 checks option, which compares layer 2 links to make sure there's no layer 2 anything going wrong with layer 2. And then there's an experimental option called TCP near congestion, which is useful if you're trying to measure TCP latency without causing buffer bloat. Okay, on the output options, Iperf 3 has a JSON output. It also has an option to give client-side server reports. Iperf 2's output is just in human readable format. There is some Python scripts for parsing in the flows directory, and there's no no client-side server reports. That you have to look at the server side. Okay, on the traffic profile and the traffic types, both of them support rate limiting, both with fair queue rate limiting as well as write rate limiting, and they both support burst. Where Iperf 2 differs is with the isochronous video type traffic, and Iperf 3 doesn't support that. They both support the reverse option to go through NAT firewalls, bidirectional traffic, which is 2 separate sockets, and a full duplex on the same socket. There's no mixed packet length testing at the moment, or feature support at the moment. Iperf 2 will probably add a mixed length packet soon with using a frequency table or two-way frequency table to generate mixed length packets. The metrics are quite different, mostly because Iperf 2 has latency, which requires clock synchronization. We're not going to discuss clock synchronization here, but it's fairly easy to build yourself a NTP Stratum 1 GPS synchronized clock for less than $150, and I would suggest doing that. So they both have throughput and UDP, but what you find out in network testing is throughput's insufficient. We really need latencies, because that's also very important to user experience. So Iperf 2 added a lot of latency support. We have packet latencies with UDP, frame and burst latencies with both UDP and TCP, write latencies with TCP. Network power metric is a useful metric, and that's supported in Iperf 2 but not in Iperf 3. There's also a little slaw in bytes flight calculation that Iperf 2 produces that Iperf 3 does not. And then on the TCP stats, Iperf 2 will give you the congestion window, Iperf 3 won't, but then the retries and the RTT, they both support. Iperf 2 supports the packet per seconds in the output. It also supports full histograms with latencies for both video frames and packet, and then as well as write latency histograms for the different histograms, and then the TCP connect time output, and then Iperf has, for when you use large minus p values, sometimes you just want the aggregate, so there's a sum only output option. None of this is supported in Iperf 3. Another major difference is the multi-threaded design of Iperf 2, where Iperf 3 is single-threaded. Iperf 2 also has a real-time scheduling option. Iperf 3 doesn't. You can set that command line though if you want. Iperf 2 does not support the CPU affinity option. It's under testing we found that the operating system does a good job of scheduling threads onto cores, and this was actually not very helpful. But Iperf 3, since it's not threaded, I think the use of CPU affinity is more appropriate because they're going to bind processes to threads, cores. Like I said, Iperf 2, we found it not useful. The zero copy option, Iperf 2 does not support, but Iperf 3 does. And then the flow label on IPv6, there's no support for that in Iperf 2, but there is in Iperf 3. With Iperf 2, we've added the option to increment the destination IP when you use -p, so you can do one-to-many. So that's not supported in Iperf 3. And we also have source port binding, which allows you to control the full quintuple or the flow ID of IPv4 or IPv6. Iperf 2 also has the option to start using a timestamp, as well as delay the start time, which can be useful if you're trying to synchronize multiple devices in time. Iperf 3 has neither of those features. Iperf 2 does not have a user password support like Iperf 3 does. Instead, it uses something called permit keys, which are one-time use keys for traffic. And so Iperf, there's two different approaches at addressing this issue. The final thing is Iperf 2 is stateless with respect to UDP. Iperf 3 isn't. That means Iperf 2 can send traffic, client can send traffic regardless if there's a UDP server or not. Iperf 3 requires a TCP test exchange, so if their server's not reachable, you still can't transmit Iperf UDP traffic. Okay, I think that covers it. Both tools are quite good. Give them both a try, and the results should be pretty similar for the common areas, but there are a lot of differences. So, all right, thank you.